Welcome to Football Letter Live. Tonight, we welcome volunteer leader Katie Dunn, Penn State graduate, who's the president of our Central New Jersey chapter. Katie will be previewing the upcoming weekend and let Penn Staters know what you can expect if you travel to Rutgers this Saturday. We'll also welcome Susan Robinson-Fruchtel, a standout with the Lady Lion basketball team with head coaching stops at St. Francis, at Providence. The Penn Stater magazine named Susan one of Penn State's top 100 all-time greatest athletes. She's the only Penn Stater to be named National Player of the Year and win the Wade Trophy. She's now back at Penn State serving as Director of Major Gifts, and we're looking forward to talking to her tonight. Football Letter Live is member supported, so thank you for your support. If you're a Penn Stater, you belong in the Alumni Association. And if you love Penn State, you're in the right place. This is Football Letter Live. Well, welcome into Football Letter Live. I am your host, Paul Clifford. Excited about tonight's guests. We have Susan Robinson-Fruchtel on. We're mixing it up a little, talking Penn State women's basketball. And of course, Katie Dunn is here from the Central New Jersey chapter to talk about everything planned for this weekend as our Nittany Lions take on Rutgers. But first, before we get to them, let's welcome John Petishnock, my co-host, into the show. John, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Paul. Still feeling the good vibes off last weekend. Looking forward to going to Piscataway tomorrow to see our volunteers tomorrow night, and of course the game on Saturday. Katie and Susan, we've got a couple really great guests on tonight. Katie, we know that she's really busy in New Jersey. That's a really popular state for Penn State alumni. Anytime you can have a legend on the show, Susan Robinson-Fruchtel coming back at Penn State day to day, you know, Penn State is better off for having her back here in the university community. And so lots of good things as we continue to chug towards the end of the regular season.
Absolutely looking forward. Hey, but before we look forward, John, let's take a look back. Shutout of the Maryland Terrapins, 30-0. It was great, a great performance by our defense. John, thoughts from last weekend's game?
Yeah, it was one of those games where, the second half, because of the conditions and because of the score, you feel like, Penn State understandably kind of took a conservative approach. And so, Sean Clifford did what he needed to do. Nick Singleton, it seems like he and Katron Allen take turns. Katron Allen scoring 3 touchdowns the week before. Nick Singleton doing well. I think you continue to see the T formation continue to do really well. For Penn State, both of Nick's touchdowns, both of Singleton's touchdowns came on 4th and 1, not near the goal line. And so I think we talked a little bit about this after the Purdue game, a little bit of bravado, a little bit of, look, we're going to exert our will on the defense, which I think is what you want to see out of fans. And so, the second half, James Franklin said this week didn't play up to their standards. You're up 27-0. It's raining. You want to avoid injuries going into the end of the season. And so, again, Penn State doing what they need to do to win. We thought we might avoid the rain. That didn't happen. And so, but again, just a very solid all around effort. And Manny Diaz, now a candidate for the Broyles Award for the top assistance job. As a Penn State fan, you want him to stick around after this year. We'll see if that happens. But certainly, just really, when your only 2 losses are to teams ranked in the top 2 or 3, you're doing pretty well. And that's where Penn State is right now.
Yeah, John, we're here in November. When you look at that Broyles Award list, right, those coaches who are up to possibly win that come early December, that's also the hot list for the next head coaches around the country. I hope Coach Diaz, stays here for a long time. But if he goes, it's because good things happened here at Penn State.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the full list, but I'm willing to guess that he's one of the few coaches on that list who has head coaching experience. Most of the time, that list is comprised of assistants who are, up and coming a little bit earlier in their career. And so, but you kind of get the sense that he's enjoying his time in State College. He was asked earlier this season about where he sees himself in 5 years. He says, you get into trouble when you start looking ahead. I'm enjoying being the defensive coordinator at Penn State. And so But yeah, it's not often you get somebody with that successful of a head coaching resume as a coordinator, but I think that's what you can attract as Penn State. And so, yeah, look, to your point, if he goes somewhere else, it's only because he did really great things here.
Absolutely. Roar Tour takes a turn. We head to New Jersey, Central Jersey. I think we talked about this last time. Is there such thing as Central Jersey? Is it Northern? Is there a Southern Jersey? I don't know about Central Jersey. We'll have to ask Katie Dunn about that. I guess we'll also get into the debate over Taylor ham and pork roll. It's the things that our listeners want to hear about. But we're looking forward to going out there and what I think will be a huge victory for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for fans. I mean, I'm guessing most fans have probably watched them in person, but even if you haven't, Rutgers, Maryland, even Columbus, those are all drivable distances. You can drive in on Saturday, drive back after the game. They're all within a couple of hours of, I think we have 35,000 Penn Staters living in New Jersey. If you're Penn State, go out there, do what you got to do, get back home safe, sound, look ahead to senior day next week. And yeah, it seems like we always play Rutgers towards the end of the season. And so, they've kind of had a rough go of it, but at this point in the season, that they're going to look forward to it. We've been told it's a sellout. So thank you to all the Penn State fans out there who are going to travel to the game. It'll be like Pitt years ago where they said, Penn State has no impact on our attendance. And so there will be a full stadium. So, it'll be interesting to see how many Penn Staters, but certainly from the Rutgers perspective, when Penn State comes to town, they get up for that game. And so it's not your typical game against a team with a losing record.
Yeah, it's almost an insult to call it Beaver Stadium East because not nearly the size of our stadium. Their stadium's adorable, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely going to feel like a home game for our Nittany Lions. I got a phone call earlier today from PJ Mullen, who wanted to place a bet on the game, and so he said if Rutgers wins, I have to wear a Block R shirt in front of the Lion Shrine. I told him I'd eat a Block R shirt in front of the Lion Shrine if Rutgers wins. It's highly improbable. A place where we've gone to over the years, John, and have great success. We've played there in bad weather and good weather, and so I feel really confident going into that game, which then will set up, as you said, a great senior day matchup against Michigan State.
And of course, the Roar Tour will precede the game. I think every time we heard an update, there was another couple hundred. I think we were up to around 900 the last I heard. Chances are that will be over 1,000. And so Craig Fayak will be there on Saturday, kicked the game-winning field goal against number one Notre Dame in 1990 as a true freshman. So you hear the pep band, see the Nittany Lions, see the cheerleaders, get your picture taken with them, hear from Craig Fayak. I believe Adam Talaferro was going to be there. And so if you're heading to New Jersey, for the game, make sure that you stop at the Roar Tour on your way into the stadium.
Absolutely. For all you need to know on game day, go ahead and visit our game day page at alumni.psu.edu/game day. You get all the information on how you can get ready for Penn State football. John, a couple big things coming up after the Thanksgiving holiday, right? We have Cyber Monday coming up, Giving Tuesday. Alumni will receive emails from the Alumni Association inviting them to participate in those campaigns. We encourage everyone to open the email and just do what we ask, right? Go ahead if you like Football Letter Live, if you love what you're seeing from the Alumni Association, then both of those campaigns are ways that you can continue to support the good work here and support fellow alumni.
Yes, and Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, I got that right in the script this week, so I take responsibility for that mix-up before. That was all on me as the script writer. But yeah, to Paul's point, I mean, one of the campaigns is $15 to support a student membership. We hear from alumni who, they want to get back, but they're not sure how and how to do it. We try to make it as manageable as possible for people who want to get back. We talk all the time about paying it forward and making sure that future generations can benefit from the Penn State experience like we had. And so those will be coming your way. We know you're going to get other emails about those campaigns, but those ones do make an impact here at Penn State. They help make this show possible. And certainly the things that we do year round, including the Roar Tour, we all benefit from that because we want as many people to enjoy the Penn State experience as the ones who want to.
Absolutely. All right, John, let's dive into our first guest who's here tonight. Katie Dunn. She's the president of our Central New Jersey chapter. She's a volunteer leader. She's a 1991 graduate of Penn State. She now works as director of channel development at Core Wireless. Katie, welcome to Football Letter Live.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, John. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so good to see you. We can't wait to see you in person tomorrow. Another big crowd coming out for the Friday Night Mixer, which is a tradition that all of our away chapters host a Friday night event when the Nittany Lions come to their town. What can Penn Staters expect at the Mixer in Northern New Jersey? You all do it a little bit different.
Yeah, but it's not Northern New Jersey. It's Central New Jersey.
Central New Jersey. Okay. Is there? Should we dive into that
debate? We'll get into that debate later because Central New Jersey does exist. But we have a really great event planned for Friday night. It's at Bolero in North Brunswick, so a short drive from New Brunswick. And what it's going to include bowling. We have some great giveaways, including, I believe, some great things from Happy Valley. We've got a winery tour, wine tasting. I think we have some golf. And then also some local things from Central New Jersey. But the Nittany Lion will be there. The pep band will be there. For anyone that is, everyone that's bowling, the bowling's included. We've got some food, and then there's also an activity card because this bowling alley is not your typical old school bowling alley, right? It's got lots of lights and lots of fun. We'll have some videos up on the big screen, and then there's some activities that the kids can go to if they get tired of bowling. So should be a lot of fun. We're really excited to be hosting everyone again. The last time we did this was 2018. So it's been a while that we've had the opportunity to host in Central New Jersey. And Paul, it is pork roll.
Pork roll. All right. I'm waiting for all the Taylor Ham messages.
Exactly.
To start flowing in now.
Yeah. And registration is still open. I forgot that piece. It's still open and it'll be open until noon tomorrow. So if you didn't get a chance to register, please go register. We would love to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've been at that venue before. We remember talking with Katie and Jamie Culinary, another standout volunteer from New Jersey. Katie referenced that. Katie, we remember that interview. We remember talking with you. Every time we come back, we know you are our go-to source. So that was sort of segueing into our next question. There are multiple alumni chapters in New Jersey. Outside of Pennsylvania, New Jersey is the state with our most alumni. I believe on your website it says your chapter serves more than 10,000 Penn Staters. What's your approach given how large of an audience that you serve in your chapter?
So it's interesting, right? So New Jersey, in all respect for everything, is not a huge state, but it has a lot of alums across the entire state. A bulk of where the Central New Jersey chapter is, we run east to west. And so we do a lot of things back and forth from the state. So on the eastern part of the state is where by the beach is where we host our football watch parties at Leggett's. We've been doing that probably for over 10 years. We get a great crowd every weekend. So we just continue to do that. We've tried to do other locations, doesn't always work. So we have sort of stuck with that spot. But then we do things on the western part of the state too, like in Mercer County, not far from where I live. We've done Toys for Tots here. We've done some other events, and then sometimes we'll bounce over and do a thon event in the, back on, Monmouth County. We do our annual student send-off, believe it or not, in the middle of our chapter, because we have a great park that we go to that can hold, up to 500 people, and we pretty much, fill that space every year at our annual student send-off. And I know you mentioned it with Jamie, right? So we coordinate a lot with Northern New Jersey. But we also do coordination because of where we're located. We share things with the Bucks County chapter in Pennsylvania. We have a great connection with the New York City chapter. So we do a lot of cross advertising. And we were doing this before the pandemic hit. And then we've continued to do that. I believe it was the Vermont chapter that was doing a lot of online events during COVID. So we are promoting those. So we always continue to promote not only in New Jersey, but anytime anyone wants to send us something, we'll promote it from a Penn State perspective.
Excellent. Now, Katie, you're also a member of Alumni Council. You have been a leader and involved in the Penn State Alumni Association's change in our membership model. Your website says that chapter events look a little different. How has the shift benefited your chapter?
So I think when the idea of and the came about the new membership model, I jumped on board pretty quickly. Because driving membership from a local chapter perspective is a lot of work from a volunteer standpoint. So this really freed up our board to focus on the things that we enjoyed the most, which is engaging with alums, engaging in prospective students, and being able to participate in those types of events. So being able to really focus on having events, whether they're in person or virtual, and really bringing Penn State to Central New Jersey, right? And focusing on that piece of it and leveraging the expertise from the Alumni Association to help drive membership. And, we support, obviously, driving membership and encourage people to join the Alumni Association. We've always done that. And this just makes our job a little bit easier by leveraging all the tools that we're going to be getting in the future. And I'm super excited about all the new tools we're going to get to help promote our chapter and the Alumni Association.
So Katie, you referenced your team. We were looking at the chapter's website this week. Your chapter website is really great. It's got a lot of information. It has a lot of information about the board members. I'm wondering, can you give us some insight into kind of like the board members that you have? How important is it to have a team like that in place? How do the board members work together? Because as you know, your volunteers and schedules have to be coordinated. Behind the scenes, how much does it help when you've got a team like that in place?
It really helps. It's a lot of teamwork. Usually if we're working on, one person's taking the lead on something, everyone else jumps in and helps. So no matter, if it's, so Lauren Koser is sort of running this event for us tomorrow. So Lauren's sort of the lead on it, but everyone is helping out. So there were a handful of people that reached out to different businesses to get the donations. There's different things that I helped out with. There's, so everyone jumps in and helps out all the time. Our communications person is in Florida because she was part of the chapter for a while back. And then I went to her and said, look, we really need a communications person. You know how we sort of work together and operate, how to do things on the website. She's probably one of the reasons we got a communications award for volunteer awards a few years ago. So she's back helping us and really helps do a lot of the behind the scenes from a social media standpoint. And we meet virtually a lot. We have not met in person in quite a long time because of everyone's schedules. Because we have people that commute into New York City or, a lot of commuters or a lot of travelers from a board perspective as well.
Katie, living in Central New Jersey, how often do you come across other Penn Staters in your personal and professional life? And what are some of those interactions like?
So come across a lot of Penn Staters, but also come across a lot of people in the Big Ten, right? So you're always able to make some sort of connection if it's, in this area as well as work. So both companies I've worked for in the past two companies had a big presence from Big Ten perspective, whether they went to Nebraska, Michigan. I keep losing the Michigan bet the last 2 years with my prior VP. But yeah, you run into people all the time, whether you're traveling with, Penn State hats on, jackets. I just came back from Fort Lauderdale last week and definitely saw some Penn Staters in the Miami airport. And then locally, right? You run into them all the time. And it's, if you can have a conversation with them, you do, and you can make that connection because you might have your Penn State logo on, or just, overhear somebody talking about a game or something and you just sort of instantly connect with them.
You said the Miami airport. We might be going there in a couple months for the Orange Bowl, and so we'll just keep that in mind. You talk about, your time at Penn State, being a volunteer at such a high level like you are. It's usually because the person feels a strong connection to Penn State. When you were a student, what was noteworthy or about that experience? What has stayed with you, whether it's life lessons or lifelong friends, or maybe something else that, makes you think back with fondness about your days at Penn State?
So, I like to think that Penn State helped me get out of my shell. my niece had to hear it from one of my friends from college that when I was a freshman, and I did the 2+2, so I went to Penn State Altoona for 2 years, and then went to University Park for my junior and senior year. And my niece did not believe me when I was like, I was really quiet and shy my freshman year. So it really helped me get out of my shell, sort of continue to grow as a leader. I was involved in a couple different things throughout my tenure at Penn State, both at Penn State Altoona and at University Park. And then, was part of relaunching this chapter. It had gone dormant probably for about 10 years. And back in 2007, somebody reached out to Penn State, and we had this big event at, I'm drawing a blank at the name of the hotel in Princeton, but we had a huge crowd of people come in, and I volunteered to run membership for the chapter. So the chapter was rechartered in 2007, and I've been involved in it ever since. And then from a lifelong connection standpoint, I want to hit that. So my college friends that I met probably my sophomore year, we just participated in our 22nd annual tailgate, whether it's at University Park or traveling around to the different Big Ten schools.
That's amazing. What a great tradition you have going there. So, am I muted, John?
No, we can hear you.
You were just getting ready to ask Katie how Penn Staters can learn more about the Central New Jersey chapter and all that
exactly
stuff.
What I was going to ask about, Katie. What John asked, just go for it.
Katie, we know our audience is listening. They want to get involved. How can Penn Staters learn more about you and your chapter and what you're doing, and how can they support you?
So I see some things running on the bottom of the screen. So definitely join us. If you're on Facebook, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Also on our website is really easy, PennStateCNJ.com. And then we have a new email address, and I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think it's Central New Jersey alum. I can't remember that. I know. Oh, there it is. Here it's coming up. Central New Jersey PSU alumni at yahoo.com. And then you can always connect with me on LinkedIn and, learn more about the chapter, what we're doing. If you want to get involved and help us out, we're always looking for people that want to get more involved with the chapter.
Excellent. Well, Katie, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Before we let you go, do you have a prediction for the final score on Saturday?
I do, and it's been through lots of deliberation.
Oh, wow.
I'm going 41-7 Penn State.
All right, 41-7. You heard it here first from Katie Dunn, the president of our Central New Jersey chapter. Katie, we'll see you tomorrow. Looking forward to catching up, and thanks for all you do for the Penn State Alumni Association.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow night. Go Penn State.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, Katie.
John, I love the theme for their event, the Bowl over Rutgers event. It's probably the closest that Rutgers is going to come to a bowl game for a number of years. And so, having it at a bowling alley. We've done a number of events at bowling alleys over the year, and it is, do not knock it until you try it, because it's a fantastic venue to have a pregame mixer, pep rally. We're going to have a lot of fun out there tomorrow night.
And it'll be indoors, so we'll be warm. So if you want to come out, it'll be fun. And for the record, Rutgers did go to a bowl last year. They got a last-second invite because the team dropped out.
Wait.
They still counted as a bowl. I got in trouble this week with the letter. I guess I was a little too mean towards the opponents. So we got to have to show Rutgers and all of our opponents the proper level of sportsmanship.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, look, it's in their end zone, John. It says the birthplace of college football. And I swear they've been trying to kill it ever since.
The guy to my right said that, Paul Clifford, not me, for the record.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's always a joke when you go to Rutgers. So, okay.
All right. Transitioning as smoothly as we can. The intro for our next guest, we have cut it down as much as we can. It is still extensive. Susan Robinson Fruchtel, superstar with the Lady Lions. Superstar is probably not doing her justice. had her number 21 retired. As Paul mentioned, won the Wade Trophy as the nation's top women's basketball player her senior season, named one of Penn State's top 100 greatest athletes by the Penn Stater magazine. Also, I believe, made a top 20 list from Town and Gown as well. She set numerous records at Penn State, 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, has head coaching experience, has athletic director's experience. We are thrilled she's back at Penn State. Penn State is better off for having her back here, and we're thrilled she's on Football Letter Live tonight. Susan, how are you doing tonight? We're thrilled to have you.
Susan, you are muted.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm used to being on Zooms, where you're muted all the time.
Yeah.
No, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Paul, John. It's always a pleasure to join other Penn Staters and, talk about our alma mater.
So how did Penn State become your alma mater? When you were looking at colleges, when you were wanting to learn, where do I want to be a student athlete, from an institutional standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, what about Penn State stood out to you?
Sure. Well, I often look back and sometimes wonder how they found me, because obviously that is a time well before any social media, digital video, all of that, those things. Rennie Portland had an assistant that was from West Virginia at the time. He was only here a couple years. Doug Hazelton, he coached Mary Ostrowski, who was an All-American at Tennessee, and she grew up about an hour from me. She was maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of me. I didn't play against her, but I did look up to her. And so I'm from a really small town, about an hour southwest of Morgantown. And somehow they got wind of me. Rennie came down to visit, and the rest is kind of history. But, Penn State, for me, Penn State was well known. You know what? Probably the earliest memory I have of watching a sporting event was Kurt Warner. He was from West Virginia, on those early 80s teams. And I remember watching, Penn State football on TV a little bit, when I was before high school.
So you understood Penn State football, Penn State basketball, women's basketball's reputation, right? I mean, a perennial power, nationally, consistently made the NCAA tournament. You come to Penn State, your first season, 14-14. Were you thinking, did I make the right decision? Am I in the right place? Where's the Penn State that I saw before I got here?
Yeah, my recruiting visit to Penn State was during their season. I played fall ball. West Virginia had a fall season at that time in history, like us in Michigan, maybe a couple other states. So my official visit was actually in the middle of the season. Susie McConnell was a senior, right, and they played Louisiana Tech. I think Louisiana, and they had Teresa Weatherspoon. So it's 2 first-team All-Americans going head-to-head at point guard. At that time in history with recruiting, you could sit on the bench during a game as a recruit. And I did. And Rec Hall was packed. It was in the dead of winter, but that really didn't bother me. And I thought, it was such a quaint college town. And who would eventually become my college roommate, Lynn Doherty at the time, she had already committed. So they kind of, I guess, pulled out the stops in terms of getting the people who had committed, and Lynn was that. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it. I actually stayed. One of my hosts for my recruiting visit was Terry Williams, who's back on staff now. So I give Terry great credit as well. But I just, I don't know, I wanted to be a part of that atmosphere, and I really wanted to see how much I could push myself coming from a small town. You maybe didn't really know how good you could be, and I didn't want to be afraid of that.
Well, that's a good segue, Susan. So being a student athlete at Penn State, how did that, influence your overall, at college experience, being in that type of environment and maybe pushing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, from day one, I did, it was like, you were anxious maybe a little bit coming from a small school and maybe not knowing how much the competition, how good it was really. But I don't know, when I got on the court, when the tip went up, I definitely wasn't afraid. I was physical. So I definitely had that going for me. I was a very strong kid. I was shy. Like Katie mentioned, she was really shy and came out of her shell. I was a shy. Jerry Fisher always joked that my first radio interview, I nodded my head yes. That could have been true. I'm not really disputing that, but I certainly grew a lot. And I'm just so thankful for all the mentors I had. Yes, my coaches, but there were so many people, administrators, professors, um, even in the residence halls, in West Halls, somebody like Judy Albin. I mean, these people just embraced you, and I don't know. That's probably the really biggest reason I'm back is paying it forward. Giving back to something that gave me so much for so many years.
Yeah, nice shout out to Judy Albin. Has moved out of the area, but remains ever present. I see her back here in State College all the time. Susan, you mentioned your recruiting trip and being able to sit on the bench in Rec Hall against Louisiana Tech. And for those of you who don't know women's basketball, Louisiana Tech was a perennial power at the time, Old Dominion, Penn State. Talk about the environment and what it was like to play in Rec Hall and play in some of those big games.
Yeah, so one of the best ways maybe I can describe it, I used to go, and many of us would go get in the gym prior to a game. Prior to game time, we'd probably get in about 90 minutes before. Shoot. I shot like 100 free throws always, or most every day, but definitely before a game. And the doors would open an hour before. And, you can hear sounds in Rec Hall. But we would be on the floor and we would hear those doors open. All the security people and ushers would be unlocking the doors, and you could hear them running in Rec Hall and running down. And here they came down the bleachers, the old wooden bleachers, to get in the first row, because it was mostly, particularly across from the bench side, was general admission. And that was everybody from students to people that had graduated, just local fans. It was hot. We had game lights that only came on during the games. And so that really meant a special environment. And I can't thank the Penn State fans enough for always being there, whether it was standing room only. It was just a tremendous atmosphere, and one that we didn't lose many games in.
Yeah, I think we need to have an episode that focuses only on Rec Hall, because those are the stories that take me back. And I know our producer Vince and our colleague Ryan at the Penn Stater magazine, we'll pay for the drinks, we'll pay for the meals. We just want to hear stories about Rec Hall. That's such great stuff. Susan, we talk with athletes across all sports. After their playing days are over, they want to stay connected to the game. They still want to be part of what's happening. That was very much the case with you. I mentioned your coaching and your AD experience. Yeah, how important was it to stay connected to the game? And at one point, did you realize that maybe coaching was the way that you wanted to do that?
Sure. I really think I started thinking about coaching when I was in high school. My high school coach, Craig Keller, was a tremendous coach, but a better person. He was our math teacher, pretty much. Taught most every math class I had in high school, and didn't take it easy on us for sure. But he cared so much about us as people, and of course, I loved the game, and so he taught me a lot just how to, I think, care about the development of others, because he cared about our development as student athletes. And then coming to Penn State, I experienced a whole different level, that, you can do this. It's more than just teaching and coaching. Because I think originally I thought it was going to be a high school teacher and a high school coach, because that's what I had experienced. But once I got here, my position coach was Dan Durkin. And I spent a ton of time in his office watching film, watching teaching tapes. Some of my earliest memories, watching some of the old VHS teaching videos, and I learned how to teach a game. Rini had us, we worked camp every summer. Kids camp was, a really big thing. And we learned how to teach the game. and how to break down the game and how to build it up again. My coaches, Rini, Dan, Annie, Troy, and they were tremendous teachers of the game.
So before you became a coach, you took a shot at playing professionally in Japan. You know, Pete Lisicki shared a story about seeing Penn Staters come out when he was playing in Italy. Talk about your time playing in Japan and if you had any Penn State encounters while you were there.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the two guys that were there during my time, Tom Hovass and Ed Fogel.
Oh, wow.
They were a couple years older than me. However, we were in school at the same time and knew each other very well. So if you don't know Tom's history over there, I mean, we know he was the Olympic women's coach. Now he's going to be the national team coach for the men. He's done such a good job. They have asked him to try to, build that program up. Tommy was like a legend over there. He was probably one of the first Americans to go over and really play well and started transforming the game of basketball in Japan, particularly around Tokyo. So we all lived around Tokyo and we would go watch each other play. My American teammate was Deidre Charles, who was also a Wade Trophy winner prior to me. She was from the University of Tennessee, and Deidre's no longer living now. And I tell you what, I miss her. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She was like 6'5". She was a true center. And at that time, we could only play one American at a time. You could only have two international players on the team at the same time. And I really appreciate our Japanese teammates embraced us. We cooked them Thanksgiving dinner with not turkey, but chickens one year. The year that we were there, those are some of the biggest memories. And we just had a great experience overall.
Yeah, Tom Hovass. I know that the magazine has featured him before. He was in the news a lot, as you mentioned, for the Olympics, and for good reason. Now you are back at Penn State on a day-to-day basis, director of major gifts with the Nittany Lion Club. You know, what's the significance of you being back here? You said you wanted to pay it forward. How much does that motivate you kind of on a day-to-day basis now that you are back here in Happy Valley on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's been a great experience so far, and hopefully I can just continue to add to everything that Pat Kraft and new administration is coming. I appreciate Sandy so much and Joe Foley giving me the opportunity to come back and keeping those relationships. I always try to be, I want to be genuine, and I'm just so grateful for all the relationships I have had over the years, from Penn Staters and people that have worked here and fans and donors themselves. But yeah, it's coming full circle. It's using all of the experiences I've had as a student athlete, as a coach, as an AD to connect with donors, people who have a serious passion about Penn State enough to support us with their resources. Fans, I want to be welcoming to anybody that walks into the Jordan Center where our offices are or at any event that we're at. I want to hear their stories, their journeys, because you find out real quick that you probably have a lot of shared experiences. And if we can help them, in a real meaningful way, stay connected, be connected more to Penn State athletics, and really support our student athletes, because ultimately that's what they're doing. It's just really, I don't know. For me at this stage in my life, there just can't be too many other more meaningful positions to be in. And I love the colleagues I work with. We're all really a support staff and trying to work together and collaborate within the athletic department and also across the university.
So, Susan, I know you would never describe yourself this way, but arguably the greatest player in Penn State basketball history, right? Coming home, you've took two teams to the NCAA tournament down at St. Francis, over 100 wins on the hardwood. How close have you been able to get to the women's basketball program here since you've come back? I know that you have a ton of respect for Carolyn Keeger, but when the icon of women's basketball comes back, I would imagine that there might have been just like some feeling out, right? How can I get close to the program? What's appropriate, because it's her program to run. How have you been welcomed back by the women's basketball program?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, Carolyn and I coached against one another when I was at Providence. She was at Marquette. Her teams were really good. She really took that program to another level, and she coaches with so much energy and passion and enthusiasm. So when she came to Penn State, I had reached out. I mean, I was still at St. Francis, so from a time standpoint, it was going to be real tough to be, so involved. But I wanted to let her know because I knew her, not real closely, but we definitely knew each other enough to talk to one another. I wanted to let her know that as someone who had been around, coaching, student athlete, connection with so many former players, that we were here to help. We were here to support. And the biggest way I could help was to connect her with other alum to get them back involved. Some of them were not involved so much. And that's what I hopefully have, that she's known I've tried to do. And then when I left St. Francis, I had more time. And so I just told her, look, I'll do as much as I can. And then when I finally, did come back to Penn State, well, my office is in the same hallway as women's basketball, as you know. I'll just be there for whatever. If she needs a sounding board, that's fine. If she needs more action, that's fine too. I want to be there as an encourager, and let the student athletes also know that this is really important. And we know the program has been down from where it was in the past from just a plain success standpoint. I just don't think people realize how far down it was. And she works all the time to get it back. She understands the history and tradition and where it needs to go. So we have full confidence in her and her staff. We're really happy that Maggie, and I know Maggie and Kelly would have some things to say about that all-time great player, and they were all unbelievable. So whatever she needs me to do, us to do. I mean, I do serve as a liaison from the Nittany Lion Club to women's basketball, also to both soccer programs and softball. So definitely involved in the fundraising activities of those programs.
Yeah, the Lady Lions Final Four banner from 2000 hangs in the BJC. And so certainly when you talk about kind of the standard of that program, it's high. You also talked a little bit about, coming full circle and talking about shared experiences. The current student athletes, I mean, they're playing at a different time, but as you said, Penn State is the connecting point for everyone. When you're spending time with student athletes, just, being around them, watching them, does it ever take you back to your playing days and maybe you see similarities or things that just kind of make you think like, yeah, I'm a Penn State or she's a Penn State or this makes sense?
Absolutely. I think we share that automatically. You have Penn State on your chest. We are all one, and we need to be together. We need to stay together. We need to respect our history, be proud of our history, and also continue to move forward. That proud history, bright future, and let these student athletes know that we understand the tough days. Believe me, there were a lot of I say I was a post player. I was not a runner, right? And we ran a lot. We used to run the stadium steps, everything in preseason, the track, around the golf course, all of that in the gym. And so we understand the hard days. We understand the hard days, the mental things you go through, but we also know how much it is worth it in the end, because whatever you go through now, it is preparing you for life. And that's why, like for me, Penn State definitely was not just an experience of a lifetime. It's a lifetime experience.
I like that. I might steal that one.
Go ahead. I used to use it in recruiting a lot.
So, Susan, You talked about how the landscape of college sports has changed, right? And now name, image, and likeness has become a big part of the student athletes. Just some of the things that are now on their plate. If you were a student athlete at Penn State today, who would be your NIL sponsor?
Oh, shoot. Well, I definitely would have camps.
Okay.
Since I wanted to coach, I definitely have camps. I ate a lot of nachos at Champs. My husband can vouch for that, and my teammates.
That's
I still
amazing.
eat a lot of nachos at Champs. So maybe that would be one. We spent a lot of time at Pizza Hut. We spent a lot of time at Baskin Robbins. I'm definitely Kirk Deal in our office can tell you I like a lot of ice cream. So
Let's shift the conversation a little bit towards football now that you're back at Penn State. I see you around Beaver Stadium a lot, but for those who don't get the chance to see you, what does your day-to-day look like on a Penn State football game day?
sure. It kind of depends on the game time. So, but I guess whatever the game time is, what time are our donors and fans starting to tailgate? That will dictate what time that we are there. So last weekend, for example, 3:30 game, we had some donors that we took into men's basketball practice. So took them in maybe 10:45 in the morning, and then I started walking around tailgates. So try to stop around to see as many of the donors that I work with, particularly. You cannot get to them all each Saturday. But you try to stop by. It gives you a great chance to get to know their friends and their family and other things that are important to them, and just build those relationships in an informal manner. And then we will go take donors on the field during pregame warmups about an hour, 15 hour ahead of game kickoff. And then we'll go up to the suite. We have Nittany Lion Club suite up there on the third level. And we're there during the duration of the game. And then if it's an early game, and if it is a noon game, then we're walking around after, because the majority of people will tailgate after the game. So you're spending at least a couple 2 to 3 hours going around to tailgates, and there's nothing better than a great football Saturday when you're playing well and you get that win. That everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Everybody's excited to be there, and there's so many loyal Penn State fans, and we just hope that they continue to show their love and loyalty, because it's we know it's not fake. We know it's real, and it's very meaningful to people.
So Susan, your husband Tony, he's also a Penn State grad. You live here in State College. Beyond, Penn State, beyond athletics, what else is it about this place that makes it feel like home for you?
Yeah, well, this is where we met. Tony was the 2+2, went to Mont Alto, and then came up. We did meet in the gym through, playing pickup and through friends. So that we go way back. I say when you play with somebody, you learn about them real quickly. You learn more about them than just can they shoot it, can they pass it, do they rebound, do they run the floor. You learn a lot about their character real quick, and how tough they are, or how tough they are not. So we got married here in State College too. It was really we chose to do that because it's pretty much a little kind of halfway in between our families. And I was coaching at the time. I wanted the team to come. I wanted other coaches and other people that we had such great relationships with in the State College community. We just love State College. I mean, this is our home. We knew we would move back at some point, whether it was in retirement or sooner. We just didn't know when. And we love Central PA. We love the mountains. We love the change of seasons. We're outdoor people, hiking, biking, walking, all of that stuff. So we just, love the area, love the people of the whole, of all of Happy Valley.
That's so well
Susan,
said.
we want to thank you. We both want to thank you for joining us tonight. You are a legend. It's fun to work alongside of you now here at Penn State. number 21 in your programs, number 1 in your hearts, Susan Robinson Frechtel. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Go State.
All right, thanks,
Take care.
Susan.
All right, John, I like that we mixed it up a little, went a little bit away from football to bring on a Penn State legend.
Yeah, maybe we ought to do it a little bit more often. That was fun. That was really the first time I've gotten a chance to talk with Susan. I always knew about her. Really great chance to talk with her. Yeah, this could be. We're going to have one more episode in December after next week's episode. But yeah, we like this. This was. We want to bring these up. We hear from our fans all the time. There's more than just football. As much as we love football, there's excellence across a lot of athletic programs. And so I think the more that we can do this, highlight Penn Staters across different programs, it's only a good thing.
Well, John, that's a perfect segue to bring our producer, Vincent Longaro, on, who always takes us around campus to look at what's going on in other sports. So, Vincent, how are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing great too. Women's soccer in the NCAA tournament, field hockey playing NCAA tournament. Take us around the sports and where we can see them play this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be another busy weekend. As you mentioned, women's soccer takes on West Virginia. I feel like they play West Virginia in the NCAA tournament every single season. So those two programs have had a lot of great battles over the years. So this should be another great game. That's Friday at Jeffrey Field. So make sure if you're in town, before you go and head to New Jersey to cheer on the Nittany Lions, you go and support the women's soccer team.
Absolutely. It's actually a rematch from a game earlier this year where the women went down to Morgantown and got a tough 2-0 victory.
Yeah, it's never easy to go down to Morgantown and win in any sport. So
Right.
That was a great win, and hopefully they can can continue that at home. And then also, as you mentioned, field hockey, is in the NCAA semifinals. They'll take on number 1 North Carolina. That'll be, I believe, tomorrow also in Storrs, Connecticut. So shout out to them. What a great season they've had, and hopefully they can keep it going. Both hockey teams have been outstanding. The men took down another number 1 team last week, only ranked number 6 after that too. For some reason, I don't know how you beat a number 1 team back-to-back weeks and not move up at least into the top 5, but I'm not a hockey expert, so I can't pretend to know that. Women's hockey as well, doing really well. They play at number 6 Yale tomorrow. Tomorrow and Saturday, I believe. So another important game for them. Men's basketball, women's basketball starting off strong to their seasons. Men's basketball won today, held off a really good Furman team at the Charleston Classic. They'll play Virginia Tech tomorrow in the semifinals. That might be their toughest non-conference game, so should be a good measuring stick for them. Women's basketball plays Bryant tomorrow. They're 3-0. Carolyn Keeger has them playing really well to start the season. And then, of course, women's volleyball with a huge win against Purdue this past weekend at Purdue, another top 10 Big Ten team. It seems like everyone in the Big Ten in women's volleyball is in the top 10. And then they'll come home this weekend. They'll play Wisconsin and Minnesota. And I believe the Wisconsin game is the silent set game, which is a really important endeavor. I know Joni Parker will be back in town, women's volleyball alumni. So 2 really outstanding matchups for them against another 2 top 10 teams. So hopefully they can come out with a win.
Absolutely. Silent sets become a great tradition here at Penn State. Johnny Parker has now left the program, but is running a nonprofit that is trying to bring the silent set to more and more volleyball venues across the country, a noble cause. And we look forward to seeing her back here in Happy Valley.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a great cause. And then just before I step aside and let John come back on, a shout out to our chapters and everyone on Facebook that has been participating in our Saturday callouts, Saturday mornings. We asked folks to share where they're tuning in to watch Penn State football from. And John has done a great job the past few weeks asking them, hey, send us a picture of your setup, whether you're at a watch party, your man cave, whatever you want to call it. Send us a picture. So before this weekend's game against Rutgers, we'll have a similar post out there. So if you're a part of a chapter of affiliate group, be sure to include your photo when you comment where you're at.
All right, Vince, you got a prediction for Saturday?
I think it'll be tight in the first quarter because Rutgers is always a tight game to start, but I think Penn State pulls away and wins 37-10.
37-10. Okay. All right, Vince, thanks for all you do for Football Letter Live. Thanks for
Paul.
joining us.
All right, you guys said going down to Morgantown, and every time I hear that, my brain goes back to the stories that I've heard. When my parents attended football games there, they had tomatoes thrown at them,
Awful.
which isn't quite as bad as what Steve Manuel, our photographer, told me. He said when he was down there, they were throwing D-sized batteries.
Yeah.
So prepare yourself. 2024, we are going to Morgantown. Hopefully things will be a little more civilized. But yes, Morgantown, tough place to play.
Morgantown, John, I've been to a ton of stadiums. It is the worst away fan experience you could ever have. I went there as an East Carolina fan when I was working down there, and the guy behind me got hit in the head with a 9-volt battery. So where did people get batteries? Are they still bringing Walkmans into the stadium? Like, I don't know. It's just 1983. I mean, I was there in the 2000s. I don't know who's still listening to their Walkman.
Hopefully there's a plastic bag policy in place when we go there in a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not looking forward to that trip. So, but it's always interesting going to Morgantown, Virginia, West Virginia, even.
Yeah. But we'll be making, probably road trips that Big Ten fans never thought we would be making as, the Big Ten continues to evolve. Next year's schedule is set. We're not sure about the conference games for the year after that with USC and UCLA coming in. There's always, I say, the probability that we'll have other games or new teams. Hopefully they'll be within driving distance. I guess you could drive to LA. You'd have to leave pretty early to make it in time for kick. And so hopefully they're part of the Eastern time zone. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun. That'll be a good time for fans to share stories about what it was like when they attended games at West Virginia. We'll see if that was another shared Penn State experience that we can have across generations.
Absolutely. And John, are we celebrating a birthday this weekend?
So it's more of an anniversary.
Okay.
Today is the 2-year anniversary of my 39th birthday, and that's how I'm choosing to recognize it. But yes, thank you.
That is awesome. John, if people go out to the blog, what can they expect to read?
We've got a couple preview stories. We'll have the game preview for Rutgers. That's already posted. We're also working on something for next week where James Franklin kind of talks about the cost of winning, what that takes. Penn State appears to be on track for a 10-win regular season. Back in the day, that was really a guide or a benchmark that separated teams that had a good season from teams that had a great season. And I'm going to ask James Franklin next week if that's still the case with NIL and the college football playoff. Like, does a 10-win season still have as much cachet as it used to have? Because certainly Penn State is on that track and in the regular season. And so we'll have that story ready next week. Again, staying in the moment, Kobe King getting into meditation, Jake Pinniger talking about mental health. The easiest thing in the world to do is to worry about things that you have no control over. And so not doing that allows you to stay in the moment. It takes a lot of discipline, willpower. It also can lead to a 10-win season. And so we'll also have that coming up for the fans next week.
Yeah, Coach Franklin in his 9th season here, he's looking for his 4th 10-plus win season since coming to Penn State. I'd be interested to hear what his answer is, right? There are only probably a dozen teams in the country that are going to win 10 or more games this year. And it's good company to be in when you're one of them.
Yeah. And for what James Franklin also going for career win 100 on Saturday, which is noteworthy. Yeah. And look, I'm not always a big fan of comparison, but when you look at what's happening with Miami, with Texas A&M, some schools are not handling the NIL era very well. There's a lot of infighting, very much on, if you see Mario Cristobal's comments this week, the Miami head coach talking about if players don't like it, their parents can come pick them up from campus. You don't see that out of Penn State. Right. You have fans, who want to see Drew Aller more. And, I saw this week that Lions 24/7, out of all the quarterbacks in this class, Drew Aller has the second most snaps. Like, you are seeing plenty of Drew Aller. The problems that Penn State fans perceive as problems, they're not even problems, but they're good problems to have. You don't see what happening at Penn State. But to your point, to get to 10 wins, you got to take care of business internally. And James Franklin has certainly been doing that over the last couple of years.
Absolutely, John. We've always done things the right way here at Penn State. There's no doubt that we'll continue to do things the right way. no matter what gets introduced into the kind of atmosphere or the environment of college football. You add NIL, we're still going to find a right way to do that and compete at all that we do, as Coach Franklin says.
Yeah, and look, these things haven't, I mean, it's not like these things are just new. Like, they're just a little more mainstream now. And so it's not like college coaches are trying to figure out how to navigate this now. And so this has been part of college football for a long time, either on the surface, below the surface. Penn State has handled it as about as well as you could hope for. And when you look at the recruiting class, this is where players want to come. And so, look, 10-win season, it's hard to argue with that, or it's certainly internally within the program, that has to be something that they value and prioritize.
Absolutely. Well, John, hey, another great show in the books. Looking forward to getting on the road and going to Rutgers this weekend and hopefully bringing back a big Big Ten victory for the Nittany Lions and our 9th win of the season. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank you for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State.